In a New York Times op-ed this week, former Fed Vice Chair Don Kohn warns about presidents and other politicians trying to influence the U.S. central bank's interest rate policy. He says history tells us that eroding that independence, allowing politicians whose horizons extend only to the next election to have an effective say on policy would produce inflation, economic instability. Don Kohn joins us this morning. He's a senior fellow in the Economic Studies program at the Brookings Institution. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
Vice Chair. Yeah, it's as old as time, I think. And I remember, which was interesting, and I remember how mad H.W., the first President Bush, was at Alan Greenspan, who he was absolutely convinced had ruined his reelection prospects by keeping interest rates too high, causing a recession back in the early 1990s. So has there ever been a president that didn't at least jawbone for lower interest rates? It's like real estate people. They all want, the rates are always too high.
Yeah, not to my knowledge, Joe. That's a great point. So presidents have often always wanted a say in monetary policy, but the say they want is all one-sided. They want to push down interest rates to ease interest rates because easier interest rates generally juice the economy, and only later do they cause the inflation. So our experience in the U.S., I think importantly, Alan Greenspan was not influenced by George H.W. Bush. He held to his policies, and that was intended to push inflation back to price stability. When chairs have listened to presidents, and I would say in the late 1960s to President Johnson and in the 1970s to President Nixon, the result has been inflation.
And presidents, they got a bully pulpit. Presidents can they appoint the board of governors so they could, sort of try to stack the deck that way, the chair and the vice chairs. They can pressure the Treasury Department. There's a lot of different ways they can do it, but none of it is direct ordering of the Fed to do something, or the Fed chair to do something. And I don't know whether President Trump has ever, there were things swirling around. It was a while ago. It hasn't been recently. I think he softened what he has said recently, that he should be able to influence it, but not necessarily.
I thought they talked about creating a shadow Fed chair.
That was from a while ago. I think that's sort of softened.
That's more recent. That he said he should be able to say it because he understands it and he has he thinks it. In that same time that he was speaking, a little bit earlier in that same answer, he said something along the lines of, I may take you out, type of thing. I think,
but it's unrealistic.
You can say what you want, but can you take him out?
You technically can't get rid of him.
There's only
two board memberships up during his entire. If he were to win during the entire 4 years.
If you were to do all the tax policy that former President Trump has proposed, and the tariffs, you could conceivably see where prices would be rising, and you'd need someone that would let the Fed do what it needed to do. You can't really square those two things.
Absolutely, Joe. So if you have tariffs, that's going to raise prices for sure. Now, you could argue that's a price level increase. It's not an increase in ongoing inflation, but we've just come through a period of high inflation. Now you're going to put more inflation into the picture. I think the risk is that inflation expectations would begin to take off and say, we've had this, we're going to have some more. Keeping those expectations anchored, as the Federal Reserve has done really since 1982, has made it much easier to balance the economy, to ease policy when you needed to ease it to get the labor market stronger. So I think risking those inflation expectations would put the Fed in a very, very difficult position.
And there's some people, I think maybe myself included, that really think a single mandate of dollar stability would be a lot easier if you just had one mandate. That other mandate almost seems like it gives policymakers license to try to influence the Fed. You can always say, "Oh, I'm just full employment. I'm just looking out for people that don't have jobs. But the one thing, you had one job: keep the dollar strong and don't debase the currency.
Actually, the job that Congress gave the Fed is price stability, not dollar strength.
Right, price stability.
And maximum employment.
Right.
Most of the time, these two are not in conflict, right?
Right. Sometimes they are, though.
Sometimes they are. And in the past, and say when Janet Yellen was chair, and I think Ben Bernanke too, Janet certainly talked about taking a balanced approach. If we're off of both targets, we'll aim a little bit. We won't hit it all on prices or all on labor markets. And those periods of conflict are usually short-lived. They can be longer, but it does take you. I absolutely agree. Ultimately, the Fed's responsibility is getting to price stability, and to do it, in a way that lets the labor market be as buoyant as possible, consistent with getting to price stability.
And Alan Greenspan always said, if you take care of the first mandate, the second will follow. Just focusing simply on inflation. Was he right or wrong?
So he came in at a time when inflation was certainly down. Paul Volcker had broken the back of the 1970s inflation, but it was still high. So when Greenspan came in, I think it was around 4%, 4 to 5%. And he was definitely focused on getting it back to price stability, which he achieved in the late 1970s. So it was a gradual approach. He had to keep emphasizing what the long-term goal was. But when he said that, he often said paying attention to labor markets at the same time. So we don't want to go right to price stability at great sacrifice of rising unemployment if we don't have to.
I guess we have to leave it. I had one more comment. That's just that, is the Fed really just have to just help Congress do whatever whatever mistakes Congress is making, the Fed's there just to grease this. Whatever you need, we'll make sure that we provide. No. See, that I've asked Steve that, and he says, well, they serve at the request of Congress. I think there's times, if it was truly price stability, there would be times where the Fed would say to Congress, do not do this. This is too much, and you're going to make our job impossible. Otherwise, it seems like they're almost partners in crime with $37 trillion in debt. No?
So I don't think the Fed would ever say that to Congress, but they could say, and they should say, if you do that, interest rates will be higher than they otherwise would be because we are going to meet the mandates that you, Congress, gave to us.
Yeah. Okay. I want more. I don't know. I don't know who's going to save us. We need to save ourselves, I guess. Thank you.
I mean, it does suggest, Joe, that the pressure on the Fed is going to be really intense because these deficits are high. They're going to push up interest rates and take a huge portion of the federal budget deficit. So either the Ds or the Rs, both of them, will be unhappy with high interest rates. So the reason I wrote this op-ed is protecting the independence is absolutely crucial.